sinasabi ko sa'yo, kaya mo yung suot niya. Ito. Sige.
And beyond. The 1,450-foot tower has been a Chicago landmark and an American icon since it was completed in 1973. When your visit ends, you can take your Skydeck memories home with you. There's a photo station.
Give it up for Miles, he's only 17 years old. And give it up for the rest of my singers.
Ang lamig ko!
Oh, pasar.
Went onto the Sears Tower in 2013, and they stepped out onto the ledge, and the glass beneath their feet cracked. Luckily, no one was hurt, but I imagine they probably had to go home and change their pants after that, because I definitely would. We're coming up here on the right, on a very cool building. It has a very interesting design. This is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange building, with the double towers and the flat area in the middle. It was designed as a wholesale operation in the 80s, and thus they needed a 50,000 square foot trading floor that was completely unobstructed by ground pillars. So they came up with this clever design to where the middle of this building would be supported by the towers on either side. So these towers actually lean 4 inches in either direction, and they play a game of tug of war with the center of the building to keep it aloft. So if you go on the inside, there are no support pillars in this middle part here, which I guess was important to stop people from shoplifting or whatever. But I gotta talk about this next building that we're coming up on, because the man behind it was really interesting. I mentioned to you guys, we talked a little bit about a character named Insull. This was the guy who made all this money in the Edison Electrical Company, and they built a huge railroad empire. And now famously, he had a mistress in New York who wanted to be an opera singer in the New York Opera. And she got rejected. So he said, come to Chicago. I will build you the largest, grandest opera center you've ever seen. So we have this building, commonly called Insull's Throne, the Civic Opera Building, and it does look like a throne. You can see the arms, the back, the seat. And notably, this throne is facing west, with its back turned to the east on New York. Insull was bad salty. Insull is a very interesting character, though, because have you guys seen the movie Citizen Kane? Anyone? Few people have. Apparently, it is the best movie ever made. I think the B movie's better. Everyone has their own taste or whatever. But it is about this man as he goes through his different stages of life, and he becomes rich. And the more rich he becomes, the more alone he becomes. And he loses it all. And that is very much the story of the man who built the Civic Opera Building, Insull. Because he had gathered all this money, he built that building, had the railroad company, no head of the Edison Electrical Company, and then the Great Depression hit, and he lost everything. Only 9 years later, he was found homeless, penniless, and dead in a Paris subway. That is a far night of fall. They just get darker as you know. Well, like I said, the river is cleaning up. It's getting better every year. We have this amazing foundation here in Chicago called the Friends of the Chicago River. And their entire goal in life is to make the river a feature of Chicago. One of the big projects that they are responsible for, coming up on your right, is the Riverwalk. A huge ongoing project that's costed $100 million so far. It will eventually connect all the way to the 606 biking trail, connecting the west side of Chicago to the downtown area. Now each little room as you pass under a bridge is a different theme. So this one is the boardwalk. And right above the boardwalk is the beautiful 333 West Wacker Drive. A building that is a perfect example of contextualism in postmodern architecture. The curve of the building follows the curve of the Chicago River. The different shades of green are the same shades of the river's color. And it was Ferris Bueller's dad's office in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Fun fact. It was voted the favorite building in Chicago 2 years in a row. And they expressed that whoever should build next to them would use masonry to contrast with the building. Luckily, the same firm that built this got to build the one right next door to it, the beautiful 225 West Wacker, only 10 years later. It's another example of contextualism. You'll see a vertical line that runs down the center of the front of the building. That line is emblematic of the railroads that make Chicago the colossal city that it is. The top of the structure is the same as the top structure at Navy Pier. And the spires on top are the same spires as the merchandise spire right across the way. Very, very cool building, and it sits on a very, very cool road because Wacker Street is the only street in Chicago to have a north, south, east, and west address. It is a triple-decker road with the top level being local traffic, middle being through, and the bottom being railroads. Now, if you watch the movie Batman: The Dark Knight, there's a chase scene that happens on Wacker Drive, the triple-decker road. And every explosion that you see in that movie, every bit of concrete smash, was completely real. It was part of a planned demolition of Wacker Drive for the renovation. So it's a very, very cool scene on a very, very cool street. Right here, this is eventually going to be a swimming area called the Dip on the Riverwalk. And right above it, coming on the other side of the bridge here, we have the Builders Building. This building is fascinating because it is half postmodern and half Art Deco. And both halves of the building were built by the leading firm in the country at the time. So this half of the Builders Building was built by Skidmore, Owing, and Merrill in the 80s. And the other half is Art Deco, built by Graham Anderson, Rosenweiss in the 20s. And the name Builder Building is a very fun and original name, right? It comes from the fact that they sold building supplies. Man, that's creativity, guys. Very cool. Well, we are going to start hitting buildings a little bit faster. We are coming out on a very eventful part of the Chicago River with a lot of stuff to see. Yeah. Very cool. Right here, we got the River Theater. This is a little amphitheater. It's the next room in the Riverwalk. As you come here at night, sometimes in the summer, you'll see little plays going on, little water shows, people playing their guitar. It's like an amphitheater on the water. It's a very nice building. And right above it here, we have this beautiful, beautiful Greek style of architecture. A Greek postmodern building. This was formerly the United Building. You can tell it's Greek. It's kind of has this colonnade on top. Something that you would commonly see in old style Greek architecture. But this very building, United did move out a couple of years ago, so now it's just another Wacker address, but we love it nonetheless. And this is probably the most popular room in the Riverwalk, a little area called the Note, where you kind of create and hang out and all that stuff. So right above it, we got this black building. That's these kind of punched out corners. That is the Leo Burnett building. The Leo Burnett building has a very clever design. Those punched out corners actually give this building 3 times more corner office space than a typical building. Which I guess when you're like a high-level executive, a corner office is something that's important to you, I don't know. But they built it that way, and I'm sure people appreciate it. Now it is home to the Leo Burnett Advertising Company, one of the most famous and influential advertising companies in American advertising. They have designed figures like Tony the Tiger, the Pillsbury Doughboy, Chester the Cheetah, and of course the Marlboro Man. Very, very fun company. Maybe you hate advertising and you want to see it smashed. It gets smashed in the movie Rampage. Yeah, that's up. check that out. Right ahead, you guys see that building over there with the golden top sitting right above the boat that's going to tip over? That is the Carbide and Carmine building. And that building was built in the 1929. It was the end of Prohibition, so they wanted to build a building. I like how that one guy just waiting this short. Alright, so they wanted to build a building that was kind of like a giant champagne bottle as they stepped off to Prohibition. So you'll notice the Carbide building has this dark green Art Deco character on the top. And the top is like a golden cord. For those of you guys that need to learn some of Barnum Brothers, we're going up right here on the building on your right. This is the only neoclassical design we see on the floor today. This is the Jewelers Building. And this building was a jewelry exchange building in the roaring 20s. And thus it was the first building in the world to feature a car-sized elevator. You could drive in with your car on the elevator and take it up to the stage. Each one of those turrets was part of a fire suppression system. And the very top dome was a speakeasy based by none other than Al Capone himself, called the Stratosphere, where high-level politicians tried to come together and rob all those. Right here on the right, we have the Nadler Tower. It kind of looks like an inverted spyglass. And the reason for that is in 1921, there was a zoning ordinance that said if you're going to build a skyscraper over 40 feet, the top of the building should be 25% of the building's footprint. So a lot of things were influenced by that. We did that because we were worried they were going to block out the sun. But right here on the left, we have the Wrigley Building. Wrigley was the home of Wrigley Chewing Gum. It's a very beautiful building. And behind it, we have Tribune Tower. Now, these two buildings are Streeterville. They're more common of architecture that you would see in Europe. That's a Renaissance revival, and that is Gothic revival. And the Tribune Tower was actually famous for a very famous architecture competition out there. It was in 1920 when the Chicago Tribune was building their offices. They promised $100,000 and promised construction to whoever submitted the winning design. Now this design came out of New York, but a lot of people favored the second place design, which was actually built only 5 years later across the river right behind that bridge. So that's not first place, that's something, but, you know, they could be nice. And right here on your left, we got this beautiful one with the spire on top. Do you guys recognize that logo up there? NBC, that is right. This is the NBC building. Another building built by Adrian Smith. Same guy who did Trump Tower, Burj Khalifa. He was heavily inspired by 30 Rockefeller Center in New York when he was building the NBC building. And it kind of is, it's the 30 Rock of Chicago. Right now it was home to Steve Harvey and Judge Matthews. But at one great time in American history, a very classy individual lived there. And here he went by the name of Jerry. That's where Jerry Springer was filmed. So, very, very cool. And that's also where the City Experiences office is. You can go in there and tell them that Pat guy deserves a raise. Alright. Well, right here we have the Sheraton Hotel. And I want you to imagine yourself in 10 years. You are a cutthroat, stunning business person. You are making money. You don't feel safe anywhere because people want you dead. What do? Where do you go? Where do you stay? I got the answer. You stay at the Sheraton Hotel. You fly in at one of the 4 helipads on top of the building. All the top windows are completely bulletproof. It has the largest ballroom in the city at 200,000 square feet and a heated swimming pool on top of it. That's where I'm going to go on vacation when the DoorDash money comes in. I'll live there, vacation there. It's going to be great. Wait for it. It's going to be great. All right. Well, it was also designed to look like a steamship because this type of steamship was very common on the Chicago River at the early 1900s. I guess you can kind of see it. Very beautiful building. Here coming up on a cool point, we have a fountain up here. And this fountain is actually very cool because it was built after all the Mafia Valley lands in Chicago ended. The two sides of the city were really looked at as different cities. The north was run by the Italian mob, and the south was run by the Irish mob. So what's all that violence that he built this centennial fountain to shoot a continuous stream of water from the north to the south off the river at the top of every hour in a show of unity. Now it goes for 5 minutes, but it used to go for 10 minutes before some big boat building we are going to talk about on the Chicago River actually is not a building at all. That's one of the interesting things about it. You're going to see this empty lot right in front of the bridge. And in front of it, you will see these little white plyboards. That is the Great Wall of Chicago. I'm kidding. That is actually much more interesting than that. That is something that was destined to be the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere of the world. A sincerely most modern building called the Spire. It would have been 2,000 feet tall. Now, for reference, Sears Tower is 1,450 feet tall. This would have been 1.5 times bigger than that. And all the money was there. And we broke ground on the project in 2008. No, 2009. Investors pull out. Skywalk has been left playing hours. It's a very pricey land. The national plans up front. There will be a smaller structure. Tallest in the Western Hemisphere, going right into the sky. And I will be living at the top of it by then because I will outdoor that. So, look forward to that. Alright, well, we have crossed across Lakeshore Drive in an area that I will remind you is part of the Chicago Loop. Belongs to you, me, and Lake Town. They also stars on it. The first star is Fort Dearborn, which at the time was the furthest west Army base, one of the first places, built right across beyond Point de Sable's trading post. The second star is the Great Fire of 1871. But the third and the fourth star, what are those? Good question, glad you asked. The third star is something called the World Fair, the World Columbia's Exposition Fair. See, back in the 18th and 19th, there were no internet. We had no way of knowing what so we do all these world fairs every 10 years. And a new country hosts it. All the countries and all of the come and show off what their country is building at these fairs. It was kind of a giant split. It would last 6 months long. It was crazy. So, you know, like France would come, they'd show off all their wines and cheeses. And the British would come and they'd show off like pickles. And the Germans would come with like giant bombs and be like, guys, look what we built. And we're like, wow, those are really big, Germany. You're not planning on using those, right? Right? And they would just kind of smile weirdly at us. It was a crazy affair. Anyways, this was America's first World Fair in 1893. It was the 100th anniversary of America's founding after the Revolutionary War ended. And we wanted it to be a spectacular event. We were trying to make a statement. We were really saying, hey, we are a real country. We are here to stay. Stop invading us, Britain. We're tired of it. It was a huge thing. So we went to win, and there's a bunch of cities that are kind of in the draw. St. Louis, After that, it was open to Chicago Institute for Technology. I think up in the 1980s. It's kind of got another renovation after renovation. Now it's an area everyone in Chicago loves. Has an excellent beer garden. You can see the locals stumbling around in it even there. The auditorium at the end where people have their proms. Tom Shakespeare is the publisher, I believe. Chicago Shakes right here. Got a huge show. The Ferris wheel, all sorts of stuff. Historical restaurants. These little rocks here is an area called Dime Pier, which used to be a fishing place where you could pay a dime and fish for the day. Lots of seagulls, but I guess they're fishing too, so it counts. Well, anyways, it is now safe to unbuckle your seatbelt. If you would be so kind, though, buckle your seatbelt right behind your back after you unbuckle it. That way, no one trips on it on the way out. We appreciate a lot. And please do not stand up until the captain gives you clearance that it is safe to stand up. It is too close to the finish line to have any injuries right now. If you guys did enjoy the tour today, please feel free to give us a shout out on TripAdvisor. We appreciate it very much. And check out our other boats. We got the Extreme, it goes really fast. But that's it for me. On behalf of Captain John Deep Dish Dolan, First Mate, Cool J, and myself, thank you for riding on the Sea Dog.
All right, guys, go ahead and give it up for your adventure. You got passengers in there. And you can see each of the slides about the city of Chicago. So if you have any legal questions as far as Chicago architecture, restaurants, eat at, or just somebody have fun with,